Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Brian Red, John Young here. It's time to talk music.
Music time.
It is. It's Tuesday. We're back.
Tuesday night music show.
And I've got a video playing in
the background. I did it again and we have to talk about how we screw this up technically every week.
Every week.
So
it's one
I
or the other.
Everyone for that. So
if you're watching out on Facebook Live, thank you for watching us there. There's a link at the top of the Facebook Live that'll take you to the YouTube. That is where we're going to be keeping track of the chat tonight. We got Jimmy and Dancing Tunes both in there. Good evening. And John's in. Hey, great. Good to see you guys.
Sweet.
We've got two shows tonight. We're going to be talking Michael Jackson for the first half hour. Then we're going to switch over to our second one. We've got some questions that you guys have sent in that I'm going to be presenting to Brian. He does not know what these questions are because that's the way he wants it. It makes it this kind of like this wild, wild west thing. You know, I throw the bottle up in the air and he. Yeah, that's kind of way it goes. So tonight, Brian,
yes, sir.
we've kind of done the other two from the class of 58. We talked about that, and now tonight we're going to finish that little trifecta with Michael Jackson.
Right. Yeah, MJ, probably the most famous of three. I think, bar none, the most famous of the three, and the most well known. When you talk about people like Prince, I'm finding that, and I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, Stacey Zeon, but people don't know what he really was about. You have to explain it to people. Oh no, he was a very good guitar player. Oh no, he wrote this stuff.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson, people just kind of know what Michael Jackson did. You don't have to explain it, Michael Jackson, to people, the concept of him or his cultural impact. People already know.
Yeah, and that's actually somewhat of a surprising thing because as I look at, I was almost surprised as I was doing research for this at Michael Jackson's musical skills. I didn't think I would have put Prince's musical skills way superior to Michael Jackson. But as I'm reading and people are talking about his performance ability, that he was actually a very solid musician from what I was seeing.
I don't know. That's news to me. What I do know is that he did arrangements. And I don't think he did he didn't say, I need this to be in D. He didn't do it like that. He didn't. He just kind of said, I want it to sound like this, or I want the drums to sound like this, and they would have to play it until no, not like that, like this, and he would mimic the sound he wanted until the musicians got it right, and that's how he arranged, which is fine. I mean, that's artistic.
Yeah,
it's not a disciplined music, but it's arranging.
Yeah, I think that's probably, and maybe I misspoke a little bit. It's not like where Prince could go and play every instrument. I don't think Michael Jackson could do that, but he was able to, as you're saying, he could
articulate
what he wanted.
Yes,
and he could get that from people, and he had that vision to be able to in his head hear what the whole sound is going to sound like. The song will sound like, then convey that, and that's a different level of genius, really.
Yeah,
I think is the best way to describe it. So let's just jump right into it. Let's kind of bring the people, for those of you who aren't familiar with the Michael Jackson world beyond maybe the 10 or so top songs that get requested. Let's kind of go back and bring us from where he started.
Oh, me? Oh, well,
I'm going to ask you questions and you're going to answer questions. That worked out really well last week. We actually had people say that's kind of cool.
I didn't study for this one. Anyway, I never studied for these.
Well, we can start from 1958. He was born in the summer of 58 because, again, of the Prince, Madonna, and he were also.
Sure. Yeah. Now, Michael Jackson's from Gary, Indiana. The whole Jackson family's from Gary. Gary is a company town. It was built around U.S. Steel. So it was like, okay, we're going to build a steel facility, whatever foundry here, or a big huge factory, and we need people to work there. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a town around the factory, and that's Gary, Indiana. And to give you, if you don't know your geography, Gary is really now kind of part of Greater Chicago. It's right there on the Illinois Indiana border.
Okay.
As is Hammond and things like that. So there are people who, Gary would be like, I don't know, probably, a 45-minute drive from downtown Chicago. So it's right there. They had a little house there. The dad was into music and had all the kids play instruments and things. Eventually got him into some clubs, small clubs to play or whatever. And eventually they were discovered. And from there, the whole Motown thing happened, Jackson 5. And they were on Motown for a long time until 76 when they went to Epic, changed the name to the Jacksons because Berry Gordy owned the name Jackson 5.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the Michael Jackson that we know now from 76 on. That's when his voice was kind of like we know it now. And even a lot of the music styles were kind of like that. They were produced initially by people like Gamble and Huff out of Philadelphia, who are big in a lot of soul, a lot of pop, very famous producers back then. I don't know, John, should I go on?
Yeah, no, you're doing fine. You're doing very, very fine.
Okay, cool. Okay. He did a solo album like 75 or something like that for Epic, or 76. Pretty under the radar kind of stuff. Nothing that really sticks out.
Yeah, exactly. I was looking at the first few solo albums he did. I couldn't tell you any. They never hit anything that I saw.
I don't remember what year Ben was, and I think Ben was still when he was with Motown because he was pretty young. I'm pretty confident it was. But yeah, the young or the early solo stuff he did wasn't anything that like popped. But when they started working with people like Gamble and Huff, and they weren't under the thumb of Motown anymore, they can do more things. They could expand. But it was mostly Michael. Michael was the guy that they were really paying attention to, singer, entertainer, dancer, whatever. And eventually 79 was Off the Wall. That was his album. He did that with Quincy Jones and several other people.
Sure.
That was the one that really, really started it all. I mean, that was when it went. But the epic stuff that I'm talking about with the Jacksons, a lot of that stuff, although you may not know it, and you know a lot of it, Shake Your Body Down to the Ground, Enjoy Yourself, whatever. I mean, there's a lot of songs you know by the Jacksons, before, Off the Wall. A lot of that stuff did get a lot of play in the discos. It was strong. There were ballads, there were pop songs, but there were deep disco cuts on every one of those albums that did get 12-inch treatments and were played in the clubs back then. So they were kind of a pop / R&B / disco band. Excuse me, but Off the Wall really is what kicked it off. We're still playing tunes from Off the Wall as mobile DJs.
Yeah, very much so. As I'm looking through some of the lists and such of some of those older songs, it's like, goodness gracious, there's some of those that I think I had a problem. I think one of them was The Way You Make Me Feel was requested at prom.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. And it's like, goodness gracious, they're still, even to this day. Just getting Mike lined up here. Getting our audio set.
I know fast forward when he died, I did a gig the day after. I was at the casino, and it was one of those chill gigs. It wasn't a dancing gig. It was just kind of, actually, it was in a bingo hall in the casino. And I didn't say a word. I did not say a word for the 3-hour performance. But I just did this block of MJ for 3 hours. I didn't repeat anything. It was really good. It was almost healing for people, because it just happened.
Right.
I was doing Jackson 5. I was doing Jacksons. I was doing, of course, the solo stuff. New, old, fast, slow, disco, R&B, whatever. It was great. And man, I mean, it was the cross section's huge. I mean, when you look at a career that literally spanned, geez, what was it?
64 is when he started with
64.
Jackson 5 with his brothers.
2010. Wow. That's a long time.
That's a long, long time.
Long time. That's a career. That's a real career. So there was all kinds of stuff. But yeah, to this day, we're still playing this stuff. They just had a special a few months ago on, I think it was Showtime, didn't it? It was really good. It was all about the Off the Wall album. And they just broke it down song by song. And they had a lot of famous people on there who maybe weren't famous at the time, but told of their experiences with that album. And every track of that album, somebody had something to say about it.
Sure.
It was kind of neat. Rosie Perez was talking about the track. What the hell track was it? So Burn This Disco Out, maybe. But yeah, how that was really hot in like the parks in Brooklyn back in the late 70s. People would just go and jam and dance or whatever, and that tune got played all the time. And that was the big tune in Brooklyn. Everywhere else, Off the Wall and Don't Stop Till You Get Enough and those tunes. But one of those album tracks that really didn't get a single or whatever still got a lot, had legs and were played and people like them. And I don't know.
So let's kind of compare and contrast just a little bit. When we had talked about Prince and his fan base, after a period of time, he really didn't have we'll call it maybe a pop culture fan base as much as he just had his rabid fans that would fill an arena. Madonna, as we talked about, as she progressed in age in the last few 10 to 15 years, she really became popular more in the gay community.
Oh, I think she was always popular in the gay community.
And
I think that was always
basically that community really has continued to support her and her concerts and her performances. Did Michael Jackson basically stay, basically pop culture-ish?
I don't think so. I think the thing with MJ, honestly, once you had Thriller, which was huge, by the way, it's the biggest thing I've seen in my lifetime happen in pop culture was the Michael Jackson Thriller album.
Yep.
I think the same thing kind of happened with Michael Jackson that happened, almost kind of the same thing that happened with the Bee Gees in the late 70s. There was burnout on it. Because it's not only did you hear it all the time, but if you turned on the news every night, the local news, the national news, for like a year and a half or 2 years, they said something about Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
And it was burnout. People didn't want to hear about it. They wanted him to go away. And he did. He went away for about a year, and then they came back with, I think it was I don't know, what was it called? Whatever their address was, something about Jackson Street in Gary, 25 Jackson Street or 2500 Jackson Street, whatever it was. Then they had the tune on there. And I should have pulled that. That was so cool. I have the 12-inch single of Michael Jackson and Mick Jagger doing State of Shock off of that album. I have the 12-inch back here in my collection. It's kind of a neat thing. I think it's a cool song. But that was more the Jacksons, and they toured and all that. They needed the Bad album.
Mm-hmm.
But to answer your question, I think there were hills and valleys for that. People really liked it, and then they got sick of it, and they didn't want to hear it anymore. They wanted to hear something else. But then he came back and he reinvented it. People jumped right back on, and a lot of that was the PR, the press he was getting.
Sure.
People are, it's good stuff, but people pretty much believe what they're told. If they do, you just tell people something and they say, oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Britney Spears is the sexiest woman alive. Okay.
She must be.
Okay. Yeah, she's hot.
I read it online.
I got hotter chicks living on my street right now. But it doesn't matter. People just, the PR was great on this guy.
Mm-hmm.
He hired the best, and he worked it. He was smart. And every time that he got, huge and people burnt out on him, he'd go away for a year, he'd come back and everything would blow up again.
Yeah.
That's my observation on it anyway. My personal observation. That's how I see it.
I was talking to a young lady who actually saw him perform it would have been like 1988 when he was on tour. I believe that would have been for promoting Bad.
Bad, yeah.
Yeah, Bad. And she said that he put on one of the most incredible shows she has ever seen. And she has seen Prince and she has seen many, many different performers. But just his stage presence and his dancing ability and his movements. She said there's nothing, she's never seen anything like it before. And that was a highlight concert for her, which was really kind of cool to hear.
Yeah, I never got a chance to see him. That was a rare thing though. Like Madonna tours, Prince tours, Paul McCartney tours.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson went on tour. It was kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
It was very tough to get in. So he didn't do it a lot.
Yeah. Brian, let's take a quick little break here. We've got a couple of sponsors and such, and then let's come back and let's talk about some of his big hits that still are working for DJs today.
Let's do it.
DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
Hits USA from RPM. Our name says it all. Get the latest hits while they're the hottest. With Top Hits USA, you'll have the track for sure. Visit tophitsusa.com or call 800-521-2537 and get a free demo.
So that was our sponsors for summer of 2016. The links are down below. If you are looking for some of the services, please show them some love, because without their support, things like this just don't happen, gang. So please show them some love. Brian, let's talk a little bit about some of the songs that MJ did that are still usable today for DJs who may know one or two. They all know Thriller and maybe Billie Jean is about it.
Those are the big ones. Those are the real big ones that I play still. And in fact, I'll play Billie Jean and then I'll mix Thriller in to the end of it, like beat mix it into the intro. So because they're pretty close, they're similar in BPM, and people love both of those. Another one that's really good to play, if you've got a Michael Jackson crowd, as most of you know, would be PYT, Pretty Young Thing, off of the Thriller album. That's big.
Huge.
You can do that one. If they're fans. If they're not fans, don't do it. I don't believe that was ever a single. I think that was just kind of an album track, but it was a good album track. People like it.
Yeah, you still hear,
yeah,
you still hear that one on satellite radio. I've heard that one pop up a few times.
Another one would be probably the biggest one that we do, or I do anyway, off of the Off the Wall album, is Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. Mm-hmm. It's a very long song. You can mix out of it in the middle. I think it's over 6 minutes long on that album. You can mix out of it in other things. It mixes in and out of things like Blurred Lines real nice. I mean, it's around that tempo. I don't remember exactly what the BPM is, but it's in the one teens somewhere, 118 maybe, perhaps. That's a good one. That's a really good one to play. I give a lot of people ask for Man in the Mirror.
Yep, I've had that also, and it's you can't dance to it.
It's a joke. It's kind of like a punchline almost.
Okay.
But they get into it. They do get into it.
Yeah, and they treat it as a sing-along, I guess, when I
play.
They
dance to it or something like that. Go and get real theatrical.
Two people are up there doing the thing, pointing to each other. Yeah, okay, whatever.
Right, they're acting it out. It becomes like Meatloaf's Paradise by the Dashboard Light, like in Ocean or something. Or someone has a dance to it or whatever. I've had a lot of that too. The family Michael Jackson impersonator. Like that one guy in the family or the group of friends who does the dance if you play the song, Smooth Criminal or whatever it is, you have a lot of that. But those are the big ones. But if I had to do Michael Jackson tribute night, there's all kinds of cool stuff that you can play. There's so much cool stuff that you can play from the 90s, from the 2000s, from the 80s, from the 70s. There's really good, solid stuff. Do you have a favorite, John?
Probably my the two that I The Way You Make Me Feel is one of them, and the other one is I Want to Be Starting Something.
Nice. Want to Be Starting Something.
Yeah.
He kind of bites, what is that tune? Soul Makuska? I forget who even does that song. Disco tune.
Yep.
He takes that and plays around with it a little bit in that song. It's a good tune.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, something that are kind of upbeat and such, and it helps. It helps that those are something that there's enough crowd recognition, and they know it's a Michael Jackson, so they can go do their thing, but it's upbeat enough. I mean, that's my only somewhat complaint with Billie Jean is that it's not a really fast song, but
it's so familiar.
It's so familiar.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Just everything like that as a DJ says to yourself, "This is the tune to play." This is Want to Be Starting Something is the song to play.
Yep.
It's got the right beat. This is a dance song, but Billie Jean and Thriller win because they're so familiar to people.
Yeah,
become staples. The one I really like that I don't play. I don't unless it's a tribute thing, and I love it. As Can You Feel It by the Jacksons. I love that song. That song is so powerful. It's huge.
I'd have to listen. I'd have to listen to it.
This song literally brings you to tears because it's really cool. The early stuff is fun, and I never thought I'd say this, but it's true. The early stuff is fun that he did with the Jacksons because it wasn't the Michael Jackson show.
Yes.
After a while, it just kind of became the Michael Jackson show. It's like Van Halen featuring David Lee Roth. No, I kind of like it was just Van Halen. So this is just the Jacksons. And Tito and Marin sing or whoever, they sing too. And then Michael comes on Yeah, he's definitely a highlight of the song, but it builds to him singing. It's kind of cool. A bit like Prince's 1999, where girls are singing, guys are singing, in the band, and then Prince jumps on and sings. I think "Can You Feel It?" It's kind of that way with Michael Jackson. He comes in on the bridge of the song.
Sure.
It's real powerful. Check it out. If you don't know it, check it out, and you'll hear it. You go, oh yeah, that one.
Yeah, that one I don't know if I know right offhand.
This is a Laserdisc, kids.
Yes, for those of you who aren't familiar with Laserdisc, which most of you in the chat room with us are, I'm sure you've all experienced it, but
Yeah.
it's a big CD, but there were music videos on it.
Yeah, movies on it. It looks like a record that's a CD. It's really bizarre, but yeah, that's that I bought that when it was new. Had to have it. That and a bunch of Prince ones. I think I have a Madonna one somewhere too. A lot of music stuff.
Yeah,
That's
I think
one I'll show you.
I think during that period of time, I ended up buying, thinking that music videos are going to be hot, of course, as we talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought some music videos on 8mm to little high 8s.
Yeah.
I've got like a half a dozen movies and probably like 8 or 10 of the of music video discs or tapes like that. And it's like, you look back at those, they're so bad.
Well,
resolution was so bad.
Yeah. But who knew? Who knew that you could just grab this stuff?
Yeah.
Online now or download it or whatever. Yeah, there's so much cool stuff that you can pull. If you want to be unusual about it, there's tons of stuff. But yeah, the big staples. You're looking at tunes, of course, Thriller, Billie Jean. Want to be starting something is a big one. You can do Working Day and Night, off the wall. You can also do, of course, Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. Then you get into the Bad album. I don't think Bad's ever a tune that people ask for, but they do ask for What You Make Me Feel. They ask for that one a lot.
Yep.
What's your favorite Michael Jackson album?
I would probably have to say the Bad album would have been, because that would have been right in the time of which we were out and had copies of that and then bought it on CD and did that. So certainly the Bad album. Not that Bad was one of my favorites, but there were just so many. What was there, 5 top Billboard songs on that? Some huge number, yeah. So, when did Quincy Jones, now, because he came into Michael's life fairly early.
Yeah,
I
don't know. I know that he the way those two met was when Michael Jackson was doing the movie The Wiz,
which was a box office success.
It didn't do that bad. It did pretty well. It was a movie, the black audience saw it because it was the black interpretation of the Wizard of Oz, which is kind of cool. But Quincy was a producer on that film. I think he directed it. No, I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know he did the music. He did the music arranging for it.
And he was there. And I think Michael Jackson, said, "Hey, you should produce my next album." He's like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." And it's like, "Oh, whoa! I just committed myself to this," and they did it. That's how that happened. So,
let's see. The Wiz would have been 1978. Holy cats!
Mm-hmm.
So he'd have been a 20-year-old at that time.
Yeah, 20.
And that's when they started up and started doing something.
Yeah.
Now Quincy Jones, he worked with a lot of big names. Was that at that time? Was he really?
Quincy Jones has always been the guy. I mean, I think that's probably the biggest thing he ever did. But he's been doing things since the 60s.
Yeah.
Amazing musician, composer, arranger, all of that stuff. And probably one of the most prolific living legends of our time right now. I really have to think about it. Mick Jagger, Paul McCartney, Quincy Jones that are alive right now, and Stevie Wonder. That's who I think about.
Yeah, for sure.
He's way up there. And I met him. He was a really nice guy. He's a super nice guy. I talked about that in shows before.
Yeah, for sure.
Very, very personable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mark said there were 6 number ones off Bad. 6 number 1 singles off Bad. Crazy.
My favorite Michael Jackson album was actually Dangerous. That's no one's favorite Michael Jackson album, but I love that album.
What was the hot song for you off that one?
For me,
mm-hmm.
It's track 3. It's called In the Closet. I really think that's a funky, cool tune. But of course, that was the track Bad was on there. And tons of tunes on that album. He did I think it was that album. I think it was actually when he did his History album. He had one. It was a 2-disc set, the History album. Disc 1 was the greatest hits.
Okay.
Disc 2 was all new material, and that was amazing too. And he did cool stuff because he owned the Beatles catalog for a while. He did cool stuff like he did Come Together. He did a version of Come Together. Aerosmith did it. Well, the Beatles wrote it. Like Aerosmith did it, and Michael Jackson did a really cool version of it.
Interesting. Is that one out there that a person can find?
Pardon?
Have you seen that one as far as that version? Is it out or what?
Yeah, it's on one of the albums. I can't remember if it's on Dangerous or it's on the History album.
I'll have to go check that out.
It's Come Together. It's just a really cool version of it that he does. I'm pretty confident it's the History album. Just the History album.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really good. But I like that. I like that 90s stuff he did. And like Dangerous came out around the same time Princess Diamonds and Pearls came out. Which is around the same time the Metallica Black album came out. It was a really cool year for music, like 91. It was a really good year for music. If you went to a club, you heard top 40 stuff that was so powerful and you could dance to, and along with the club music that was out at the time. Yeah. There was a lot of cool stuff on that album.
For sure. Yeah, that was a good album, but it wasn't, again, I couldn't give you a track off that without thinking about it. So, well, Brian, we're going to wrap this up. Guys, I'm going to put the link for the next show, the Q&A show, is in the comment section on YouTube. If you are watching us on Facebook, the link for the YouTube video is at the top, and then you can pop over and get over here. If you are on Facebook, you can wait in about 3 minutes. We will have the new feed up. So thank you guys for watching, and the link in the comments area. We'll see you on the Q&A show in just a couple of minutes.